Hello, it's Fran Davidson from psychicandenergywork.com.au, and this is part one of my monthly observations for September 2025. This part one always looks at the month that just was, so of course in this case it's August 2025. You might remember, assuming that you've had a look at it, from the monthly update last month, halfway through, I talked about the fours in this year's chart, and I also noted that this month, September, we've got a fair few fours playing out. Last month was a time that was heavier in eights rather than fours, and hello, number. What does that mean? 8 can be very much a time that asks us to fine-tune our vision, our understanding of what our life is about, what our potential is, what our journey needs to value or not, needs to include or not, and also how we're going to manifest that, the elements that we need to nurture, look after, represent versus not, in comparison to the model, in comparison to other people, in comparison to the sort of systems or beliefs that we've grown up in amongst, that we've been indoctrinated by, not necessarily because that's been a negative experience. This month, of course, asks us to run with fours as a greater level of awareness. And as I mentioned in this month's observations, that 4 is very much a time that helps us look at our models, look at our assumptions. But in order to do that, we can often need to get clear. We can often need to buy ourselves the space to actually just review. Energetically, one way we do this is to just relax and let go, to do some release work, to clear, to tune in. You would need to take time out. All of those words can mean the same thing, not necessarily so that they do as a given. So in this video, what I want to talk about is how often at those times that we can be feeling, shall we say, slightly overloaded or consumed or just caught up in life as it is right now, it can be very, very difficult to feel as if, and therefore make room for, the release that we actually need to get to clarity. Periods that have been high in 8 or 5, and again, that's been the case over these last few months, they can be busy times. And I mean, hello, that's been this year, in part because 2025 has a 5. And so that in itself is telling us that this year is here to stretch us. 5 can stretch through busyness, through a certain level of chaos. Now, chaos needn't mean a physical experience. It can be an energetic, invisible experience. In other words, you know what? My schedule is out of control. Life is just bringing so many things I have to attend to all at once right now without being able to stop or look after myself or whatever those words are. 5 and 8 zones can make things feel so busy that the person involved can, in response to that, believe that, you know what, I just can't take the time, or even when I do take the time, I can't clear, I can't quieten. Periods that are quite heavy with 5s and 8s, even 3s, any active number really, but those in particular. They can also therefore be times where, you know what, I know how to meditate. I have my practice in terms of coming back to zero and quiet to access the big picture, but I just can't do that. Now, if we throw into that the fact that in Australia at least, there are a lot of places that now have 5G technology running around. Not because I'm saying 5G is only bad. Nothing needs to be a rejecting statement or a rejecting stance. Yet 5G technology also ups the ante of busy, of go, of hype, even ADHD. As an experience, not necessarily as a diagnosis, but as an experience. And by that, I mean, again, feeling more buzzy, feeling like we can't quieten, feeling like there is no time for peace and quiet. And even when I want it, I just can't get there. So what I want to talk about there is the fact that in one sense, those experiences are only had because the universe is trying to say to us that we have to sit and ground to the next degree even more. Self is very much a creature of habit, especially egoic self, yeah? And because of that, when we choose to have a moment of reflection, we can sort of do that based on what we've known before, based on our experience of what has happened before when we've chosen to do that. What do I mean by that? Okay, so in years like 2025, we can shall we say, affirm the fact that, you know what, last year, last month, I was able to do these things like that, no challenge, no issue. There wasn't all this struggle. There wasn't all this noise, this like inner voice that just won't let me through to peace. Yeah. And yet, that in itself is the universe. It is the intuitive message that we don't need to struggle. We don't need to get into yesterday. Therefore, we don't need to get into assumption and expectation as we go into our release work. What we have to do is let go of all of that through the use of breath. And remembering that no event is necessarily going to be the same in the next second. That's really easy to say, but it's very difficult to remember as a tool, as a key to break through when we are in busy, energetic, and therefore busy mind moments. So what I'm trying to flag here is the fact that if you have been feeling like it is harder to get to quiet, stay in quiet, channel big picture, channel divine intelligence more as a constant this year, hello human, you're not alone. Congratulations, you're on track. It's part of what you're supposed to be experiencing. But also, instead of tussling with it, instead of fighting with it, instead of moving into telling yourself off or criticizing yourself because somehow you're failing at this aspect of life, it is about remembering, you know what, but the only reason that noise is still presenting is because the universe is asking me to take another breath. The universe is asking me to just, hang on, can you just breathe and let go again? Because behind any moment like this is the fact that the minute that we hit upon the kernel of what the divine is trying to help us tap into, understand, sense, learn from right now, it just shifts. So there doesn't need to be a war. There doesn't need to be a struggle. There doesn't need to be a tension or a telling off because the release work isn't happening now, or bear with me, the release isn't happening now because the breakthrough isn't happening now. The only reason it's not happening is because the universe is going, nice, onion, can you go the next layer in your breathing? And you're right, you might go the next layer and hello, it's still there. Frustrating as that might seem, it's because the universe is going, yeah, nice. So you've dived to 20 meters now. I need you going to another 20 or another 2 or another half a meter, whatever that is. And so therefore, in one sense, what I'm trying to say is, even though the illusion, as in the reality, the lived reality in that moment can be, I'm never going to get to quiet. Yeah. It only seems like that because you've yet to burst through the veil of the egoic energies that you're caught up in right now, not because they're good or bad or anything. They don't need labels. Nothing need labels. But for as long as you are only in the struggle, for as long as you are only in the memory that is throwing the present in a negative light, you're missing the point. You're missing the guidance. Because at the end of the day, the universe is only here to guide. Life is only here to inform. But because we have all these wonderful models and expectations and theories and realities going off all at the same time, we can forget that. And because of that, we can go into struggle and tension, stress, negative. Whenever there's a negative, it's because egoic self is driving the bus too much. And therefore, whenever there's that negative, the universe is saying, hey, relax, let go. Just use breath. In through nose, out through mouth. Let go of absolutely everything. Every label, every fact, every memory, every construct. Everything, everybody, every projection, every expectation, everything, even the stuff you don't know about, even the stuff that isn't even yours, not because you have to go fishing there. Yeah, let go of all, let go of everything. Just use breath, knowing that tension, that blindness, the stuckness, the noise, it will all shift as soon as you've got to the right level of the staircase that only the universe really knows about. So in a sense, these struggles, when we are trying to clear, it is only the universe saying, trust me, I do know what I'm doing. I am taking care of you. I got your back and you can do it. But you just have to let go a bit longer. And the minute you do that, your bubbles will pop and you'll see as clearly as you've ever seen before. You'll see wider than you've ever seen before. Why? Because you're here now, not yesterday, not the last step, this step that I've just stretched you further towards and into. So to show you and help you sense and access and therefore manifest even more. Take very good care. Go through to part 2 of my monthly observations for September 2025 now. And of course, please get in contact via the website if I can help you in any way. All the very best. Thanks for tuning in.